Turns out, Vogelbaum made a kid. Born spring 1981.
Welcome back, everyone. This will be my full video for The Boys, Season 3, Episode 7. There were so many Easter eggs we have to talk about. They went full-on Empire Strikes Back Star Wars. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. They just confirmed they're going to be filming Season 4 really soon, too, so that means they'll probably be able to release it by the end of next year. Careful for spoilers for the episode. If you haven't seen it yet, we'll be talking about everything, just starting at the beginning, and we'll just go through shot by shot, talking about Easter eggs and WTF moments as we go along. Obviously, the big thing that everyone is talking about is them going full-on Darth Vader, confirming a lot of our theories. Like, one of my biggest theories this season is that they were going to say that Soldier Boy was basically Homelander's father, like they used his genetic material to create him in the lab.
No, I am your father.
I suspected this might be the case after early on during the interviews that they were doing for the season, they said that Soldier Boy was meant to be the template for what Homelander eventually became. And I was like, well, what if they actually made that a literal thing and not just a metaphor? One of my early theories before Season 2 was also they were going to say the same thing about Stormfront, like they were going to have used some of her genetic material and she would have been at least partly his biological mother. But the episode was titled, Here Comes a Candle to Light You to Bed, which is a reference to the nursery rhyme, Here Comes a Candle to Light You to Bed, and Here Comes a Chopper to Chop Off Your Head, which is like the worst nursery rhyme you probably ever heard. It's meant to be a reference to old school executions, like an executioner is coming to get you. And it's meant to play in with the whole idea of all this toxic masculinity that's going around and what's happening with Soldier Boy's character too. Like terrible people being terrible fathers and then raising those children to themselves become terrible people when they become adults. Sort of playing in with the idea of Butcher, like they kind of give you an idea for what his backstory was and some of the reason why he's so terrible in present day. We already knew a lot about Homelander's backstory. It was the same thing with him, like he had no father, they raised him like a test experiment, and because of that, because he didn't get any of the nurture or the love that he was supposed to get as a child, he just grew up to be this terrible person. They'll probably address this in the finale episode too, but the same thing plays in with the whole idea of Butcher and Ryan. Like, if Butcher doesn't become a better father or a better person, Ryan is going to turn out just as bad as Homelander. The actual opening scene is of Vought addressing all the fallout from the end of last week's episode with Starlight's Instagram post just revealing everything that they've been doing and everything about superheroes to the world. The funny thing is that in real life, The Boys has a bunch of social media accounts. There's one for Vought, as if Vought is like a real company responding to all these things happening on the show. So after last week's episode, they posted basically what you see happening during this scene here, with Vought trying to throw Starlight under the bus. And the funny thing that Ashley does here during this broadcast, she tries to deflect attention from the actual truth about superheroes and Homelander, doing the very thing that she said that Starlight is trying to do to them, deflect attention by telling all these other lies about Starlight, like, look at all these crazy things she's doing, and obviously none of it's true. But it's her deflecting attention from what's really going on. You have to imagine now with the revelation about Soldier Boy being Homelander's father, if they make that public and they turn that into a big thing and use it for good PR for Homelander, how quickly Ashley is going to talk to try and spin this to explain where he's been this whole time and what really happened in the past. But isn't Homelander so glad that he didn't take Victoria Newman's advice to kill Soldier Boy before he told Tim the truth? They have this funny 80s commercial with Soldier Boy on the Legends TV all about not marrying an ugly wife apparently, and them just making fun of how terrible a singer he is. I'm sure Jensen Ackles had fun doing all those fake ads. It's kind of like the fake ads that they have Captain America do in the Marvel movies. If you look around his room, he's got a Payback poster above the fireplace. It's this poster here they posted on their social media account. You can also see a medieval-themed sword and shield, which would have been an Easter egg for like the Boys' equivalent of a Black Knight type of character. And I love all the Soldier Boy jokes about the stuff that he's getting up to while he's just being super bored, staying at ground, trying to hide out. Like, do you have any more lube? And the whole joke that because he himself is like an old man in a young man's body, he really prefers older women, like really older women. The legend reveals that all of Soldier Boy's stories about World War II were fake, he never lifted a finger. That is a minor change from the comics. What they've done is there's actually two different versions of Soldier Boy, one in the past and one in present day. They combined both of those and given him a slightly different backstory. In the comics, the original Soldier Boy did fight in World War II. He was actually a teammate with Mallory's, but he was a terrible superhero, he didn't know how to use his powers, and he basically got his entire squad killed. The way the legend explains it, Soldier Boy never saw any real action, and they used him more like they did at the beginning of the first Captain America movie. Like, what if Captain America had just done what the military had asked him to do and been more of a hype man for them selling war bonds instead of actually entering the war? They explained their next target on the Payback team is going to be Mindstorm. Obviously, he's a parody of Professor X on the X-Men. He just has low-level telepathic powers. They reveal Mindstorm's go-to takedown is to basically trap people inside their own nightmares. It's like Doctor Strange 2 Multiverse of Madness with Scarlet Witch and Professor X fighting inside her mind, because like Professor X tries to go inside her mind to save the Scarlet Witch from the 838 universe, but MCU Scarlet Witch, who's controlling her mind, basically attacks him too. They use his whole sequence during the episode to explain Butcher's backstory and why he's so terrible in present day, so don't worry, I'll get to that too, because that was a huge part of the episode. They confirm all of our suspicions about Maeve. She is still really alive, but the global wellness retreat that she was supposed to have gone to is basically just a version of the bad room that Homelander referenced in earlier episodes. They actually featured this in some of the tie-in material too. This is basically the type of room where they would put Homelander when he was a child and he was bad, and they just had to discipline him, but because he's so powerful, how do you discipline someone who's that strong? You put them inside a nearly unbreakable room. Homelander makes some references to it too, like, I'm gonna have a son someday who's too powerful to keep in here. Then even though they have all these metaphors about fathers, children, embryos, artificial insemination, and it's meant to set up the end of the episode with the big reveal of Soldier Boy and his true father, they reference him being bruised on his face just to sort of set up his PTSD arc and let you know that he can be hurt by other characters. I think to set up more stuff with Ryan later on. Like, they want you to think about Butcher and Huey and Soldier Boy coming after him in this season, but I think that's a bit of a red herring. Like, they're probably not going to be able to kill him. But the idea is that he can be hurt, he can theoretically be killed eventually by someone. And I think that someone's going to wind up being Ryan. Love the way they treated this scene too, when it goes from really weird to really creepy. Homelander basically tells her that they plan on eventually killing her and just harvesting her eggs so that he can have an even more powerful super baby with her. Butcher then confirms that they understood Soldier Boy's PTSD, like they understand what's happening, and he's basically just trying to gloss over it temporarily, like just trying to treat the problem with a band-aid so that they can accomplish their short-term goal of killing Homelander and somebody else can worry about it, like it'll be someone else's problem. I think eventually it'll wind up blowing up metaphorically and literally in his face, because that's kind of his power, like he blows up when he has PTSD. It's also meant to dovetail with the storyline with the temporary Compound V causing their tumors and slowly killing them. Like, he doesn't want to deal with the problem because he has this short-term aspiration to kill Homelander. Like, it's all worth it if we can just get rid of Homelander. When it looks like they might theoretically wind up killing themselves just to get to the finish line. Even though I do think they'll have a more hopeful ending with Huey's character. Loved all the Black Noir scenes too. Just love the way they played this, like a really comedic kind of hallucination in the tone of what happened with Homelander in last week's episode, with him talking to the other version of himself. It's meant to kind of be the same thing. Like, these hallucinations that he sees are basically the characters that are part of the mythology of the restaurant. The restaurant that he goes to was a real restaurant when he was a little kid that he just loved going to. It looks like as a young child, he used these as coping mechanisms, like the same way that Homelander always talked to this other version of himself, this other personality inside him. It sounds like Black Noir had his own version of that, but with these animated characters. And this is just the way that his mind depicted them when he was talking to them. We get the full backstory about why they got rid of Soldier Boy in the past, like all the terrible things that he did. He's way worse than you thought that he was to the rest of the team. And if it wasn't clear, the way the Black Noir depicts all the team members, they are the characters that are from the mythology of the restaurant. So that's why all of his former Payback team members look like the restaurant characters. But I love the way he depicts himself as this very gentle sheep, just yelling about Eddie Murphy. Turns out he was supposed to be in Beverly Hills Cop, but Soldier Boy badmouthed him to Don Simpson, who was the real-life producer of that movie. The way they explain it though, that was much earlier in the timeline. It was a couple years after that they came up with the plan to actually get rid of him. They also confirm our theory that Stan Edgar was the true mastermind of the plot to get rid of him, and it was mostly just because he was done with him. Like, Stan Edgar didn't hate Soldier Boy, he was just extraneous, like they didn't need him anymore. They had someone better on the way that they were going to create because of the whole plot with Homelander. Everything in that flashback was meant to be them foreshadowing Vogelbaum found a way to create someone even more powerful who can fly. Them setting up the reveal about them using his genetic material to create Homelander. They also confirmed that Soldier Boy was the person who maimed Black Noir's face so badly in his throat so that he couldn't talk anymore. But like all these scenes where you see him talking in the past, it's the same voice of the actor who you saw in the flashbacks coming back to voice the character again. The funny moment with Stan Edgar refusing to stop eating the peanuts because Black Noir is allergic is just meant to show how he doesn't care about any of the superheroes. Like, even though he's kind of helping them by getting rid of Soldier Boy, it's not because he likes them or wants to help them. It's just because Soldier Boy has become more trouble than he's worth. Like, they're not making as much money off of him as they could. In present day, Stan Edgar was trying to do the same thing with all the current superheroes like Homelander because he'd found a better way to make money selling the temporary Compound V to the military. Then Mindstorm gets the drop on them, and you get all the Butcher flashbacks, him getting trapped in his own nightmare, and you find out that yes, their father was terrible, but because of all of his abuse, it eventually led to his younger brother killing himself, and Butcher blames himself because he left to join the military to get away from it. But also explaining that it was all of his father's abuse that caused him to become a terrible person. Like his father was terrible to him, so he grew up terrible, and now he's kind of being terrible to Ryan. So the threat is that he's going to let Huey down in present day like he let his brother down, and he's also going to let Ryan down, and eventually Ryan will turn into another Homelander. Starlight finds out about all the terrible side effects of the temporary Compound V, take it 3 to 5 times, and it's basically a lethal dose, like it'll turn your brain into Swiss cheese, give you all kinds of tumors. Basically, it's like a death sentence. So that explains all the weird stuff that's been happening to Huey. During the episode, he also tells Butcher, hey, your brain's leaking out your ear. And even though that was meant to be a joke in the moment, that could actually literally happen to them if they continue taking the Compound V. The whole idea that Butcher doesn't tell him the truth at the end, like he wants him to keep taking it, because like I said, he just wants to treat the problem with a band-aid because he's more focused on the short-term goal of killing Homelander. It's just meant to be more of comic book Butcher. Like in the comics, he's meant to be so bad. He's so much worse than the TV show version. Essentially, he's irredeemable, that they might have a more hopeful ending for the TV show version of the character, though. The whole thing with Starlight saying that she's going to save Huey's life, whether he likes it or not, I think is just meant to tell you that Huey will have a more hopeful ending. Like, he will survive this. He's taken it about 3 times, even though she said that 3 to 5 is lethal. I believe Butcher's taken it at least once or twice more than Huey. So I think the idea, heading into the finale, they take it one more time. It's basically like the point of no return for Butcher. They did confirm season 4, and Butcher, I believe, will come back for season 4. So I think whatever winds up happening, he will survive to season 4. They have all these jokes about the Deep just being a super freak, just kind of continuing that storyline. The joke about Aquaman getting it on with fishes, but them doing it as a literal thing on The Boys, is meant to be a parallel for what Stan Edgar told to Homelander, like, well, without me here to protect you from messing up, everyone will eventually see you mess up, and you'll just out yourself to the world for what you really are. It sounds like a version of that is going to happen to the Deep. Like, without his wife there to tell him what to do, he's going to mess up and just reveal himself to the world. That really messed up scene with Soldier Boy, Huey, the priest, and the nun, I think it just meant to flow with the whole idea of his PTSD and just refusing to acknowledge everything. I think the idea is that Huey was meant to be correct the first time. Like, there wasn't anything weird going on with them, and the only reason the nun attacked him was to get revenge for the death of the priest. With all the presidential campaigns and all the cameras on Homelander, I think they're just trying to set up the idea that eventually Soldier Boy will be on stage with Homelander and something similar will happen with him, where like Soldier Boy will have a PTSD episode and something crazy will happen, a bunch of people will die, and it'll all happen on camera. I've already explained all the Supernatural Easter eggs, like this character here, Robert Singer, the actor was on Supernatural, and Robert Singer was also a real-life person involved with the Supernatural show. The showrunner of The Boys was also one of the other creators of the Supernatural show. They had the whole subplot with Victoria Newman, just trying to use Homelander to get more power, just willing to make all kinds of deals with any person being just as terrible as Homelander. She basically does the same thing with Homelander that she was trying to do with Starlight. And if it wasn't clear, the paper with the address that she gave him was the address, I think, where Soldier Boy, Huey, and Butcher were hiding out, because her whole thing was that she wanted him to take care of the Soldier Boy problem so that they could focus on the presidency. Love the funny scene with the milk too. Did you miss breakfast? Homelander taking his kink straight to the source. And speaking of milk, very cool mother's milk Easter egg here. When you see him shaking up the milk here, getting ready to drink it, in the comics, mother's milk has Compound V powers and he gains super strength when he literally drinks his mother's milk. But on the TV show, this version of mother's milk isn't meant to be a super or anything. They also confirmed during his storyline that Frenchie figures out that they can use Nerve Agent to temporarily disable Soldier Boy, so it sounds like they'll use that during the finale. They have the whole subplot with Frenchie and Kimiko and her wanting to take the permanent Compound V again to get her superpowers, but they've kind of gone full circle with her character. Like, she's had like a full character arc where she realized, oh, I can still be superpowered and not a terrible person. All the terrible stuff was just my personality before the fact. This just meant to show you that some of the superheroes on the show can still have superpowers and not be terrible people, but for the most part, most of them are supposed to be really, really terrible. They do a bit of a cut to the subplot with A-Train to follow up with him, but his whole nightmare now that he's living with is that now he's actually got Blue Hawk's heart. Like, he's literally reminded of the person he hated so much every time he does anything. But if it wasn't clear, Ashley wasn't lying. They transplanted Blue Hawk's heart into A-Train. So like, his powers work fine, he can do whatever he wants to with his powers, and he doesn't have to worry about having episodes. then if it wasn't clear at the end of the episode, when Soldier Boy learns the truth from Mindstorm about what they did with his genetic material creating Homelander, he did not tell Butcher or Huey, so they don't know what's going on. Homelander is the only other person that knows the truth. And like I said, they play that whole scene like a very Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, Star Wars type of twist, like, I am your father. What father wouldn't want that for his son? So if you guessed the Soldier Boy and Homelander were going to team up, you are correct, pat yourself on the back. But remember, next week's episode is the finale, and they haven't confirmed that Soldier Boy Jensen Ackles is coming back for season 4, so something really messed up is probably going to happen to him. But I love the way they play this conversation between them, because when he reveals the truth to Homelander, it's almost like Homelander's brain melts out of his ear, like he has the blue screen of death, like somebody reboot Homelander, you broke him, you broke his brain. If you remember, he's been obsessed about this idea for his entire life, like he's always wanted a family, he's always wanted a father, and he's having this huge existential crisis because the person he's been trying to kill this whole season winds up being that father. So I cannot wait to see the really messed up way that they pay this off when the two of them come together in the finale. Like I said though, there's this whole PTSD runner storyline with Soldier Boy's character that is probably going to metaphorically and literally blow up in everyone's faces. Let me know in the comments if you spotted any Easter eggs in the episode that I didn't talk about in the video, and my full Boys Episode 8 finale video will post next week after it airs. Big reminder too, Thor Love and Thunder is coming out in theaters next week too. I'll be doing a whole bunch of Easter egg videos, my review video, all that stuff will post next week after it comes out. Everyone click here for my brand new Doctor Doom Marvel video, and click here for my brand new Thor Love and Thunder trailer video and Easter eggs. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.